We'll start the conference. So please welcome Maciej.
Maciej.
Maciej. Sorry.
Close.
And I'll let you introduce your talk. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So, hello, my name is Maciej. Really hard to pronounce, probably. And I would like to talk about a small creation of mine, which is called Hrisey. Also really hard to pronounce. So, I'm a geography teacher. You'll learn in a while why. And I'm also a lazy Android developer. You probably heard that before. But before, I would like to introduce Lombok. Anybody heard about thing? It's a small island. You never heard about small island called Lombok? Near Java. You probably know Java. Yeah. So Lombok is not only a small island, but it's also a library that uses a very hacky way to insert code into your code. It's somehow close the JSR 269 annotation processing APIs, but these APIs don't let you insert code into your classes, only allow you to create new classes based on your etc. So it was created by these two nice guys. I haven't met them, but they're really, really nice, helpful. And what Lombok offers you is a bunch of annotations, similar to what you can get if you start using Groovy. So basically, if you were on the Groovy presentation, you would see the immutable annotation, which is the first one, value. It's basically the same. It generates getters, setters, constructors, toString equals hashcode for you. It's basically for free. And these others, equals and hashcode, can generate only these two methods for you, toString the same. And builder is a nice thing, the same in Groovy. It creates a Fluent API to create your immutable objects without having like 10 parameters constructor. You don't know which boolean is which. It's all there in code and in a nice way. And Wither, also in Groovy, it adds with field methods to your classes, so you can mutate objects, not really mutate, but create new objects based on your objects with a single field changed. So your code stays immutable, it's easier to work with, easier bugs, and things like that. And delegate, you probably know what it is. I really don't like inheritance. I think it should be banned. So, but delegating in Java is a lot of boilerplate. You basically had to write all the functions that you want to delegate to your component. With this, one annotation, and it's really, really nice. So, Hrisey, back to our topic. It's based on Lombok, and it's also a small island near Dalvik, on the north of Iceland, I think, somewhere there. And I have created by now 3 annotations. The parcelable, I think you will love it. If you create a lot of parcelable code, you know what I mean. And preferences, it's basically what I think is a nicer API for shared preferences without all the strings as keys. Basically, you get strong API with defined types of your preferences. You cannot call getString on Boolean and get some weird results or crashes because of that. You have a function which returns strings or ins or whatever really class you want. It's internally for complex classes like parsellables. It uses JSON, and you can basically store anything into shared preferences. And the instance state, it's pretty simple. Cyril talked about it today in the morning. What you need to basically overwrite onSafe instance state and in onCreate restore the state. With this annotation, you also get it for free if you annotate a field. So before we go further, I would like to say a few things about it, why it's bad. And it's really bad because it can generate code inside your code where you have like your business logic and mix things up, make debugging harder. But I also love it for this because you can do magic with these annotations, really. Some of you heard Stefan today, who was talking about bytecode waving. It's pretty similar, but it does everything before compiling. So what the library starts with doesn't need to be Java code, really. It can change. It needs to be similar to Java. It needs to have all the statements. But for example, you don't need to have a field that you later use in your functions methods in code. We will see that later. And unfortunately, I don't work with Eclipse for like over a year now, and I won't provide support for that. Is anyone still using Eclipse? Oh, I'm sorry to hear. But it's okay. It's only 3 people. I guess everyone is shy. But that's good. You probably all of you use command line and Java C, right? You don't need Eclipse. Why? Okay. And the good thing about Lombok and Hrisey is that if you don't really like it anymore, you can remove it with a nice command line function and get all your boilerplate-ish code back if you really wish that. But I think if you start using Lombok or Hrisey, you will not like it back. And one thing I'm constantly looking for is if you start using that, and I would really like to have some contribution because it's really boring to do that myself. Yeah, but we can come to that later, and I would like to show you some real examples. What I missed today was some cool hacking on the stage. Everybody was showing slides, so I will. And sorry for that. Okay, before I show code, I would like to show you a small application I created. Of course, using Genymotion. Yay. Oh, so internet works. So basically, it's a simple GitHub client which loads for any user their idols. So, whoops. Yeah. So you can see some Jake Whartons there, and also Cyril, and yeah, Pierre. A lot of cool guys. And when you press one of them, for example, Jake, you can see their projects. Simple as that. A few classes, 2 activities, no fragments. Very, very, very simple. So In this code, there is a lot of boilerplate, and I don't like that. Whoops. Doesn't work. Ubuntu. No. Hmm. Yeah. I will. So let's start with simple things. There is networking code in the application, and I use event bus. So there are events sent here and there after you get the result from the network call. And the events are really, really simple classes. A few lines. What you can change. Before I start, I should probably add the library. Oh, it is already there, so cool. So taking a simple example of event that is sent after the network request is complete is a list of users. So the constructor and the getter are not really required. If you saw that on the Groovy presentation, it's as simple as adding value. And you can also remove the boilerplate private because value adds that to your code, really. Simple, right? And it's a bit nicer for me. And I'll show you it still compiles. Or not, yeah. One thing I forgot is like you need to add a configuration file for Lombok because it was showing that there is no class constructor properties, which is added in Java 1.6, but it's not available in Android. So it's an annotation on a constructor. Not really important. But we need to suppress it. And it will compile, I think. Yay! So it still works the same way. It loads the list of users. I hope you trust me that I actually use the constructor and getter inside my code. Don't trust me. You can check it on GitHub. So that was really simple, but let's take a look at the user class. There's a lot more boilerplate here. I'll make it a bit bigger. Yeah. So basically you have 3 fields and constructor, getters, builder, the nice Fluent API to create, and parcelable code, which is actually used when you rotate the device. I don't request the same list of users again, just reuse it. And that's all. So if you, how many lines of code is that actually? It's, okay, 90 lines. That's bad. we can just drop them. Oh, that's only half of it. Oh, much better. And adding value. Builder and my first annotation, which I was writing. It took me like 1 month to write it. It was crazy. And we get exactly the same code we had before, but we don't need to look at it. And not really exactly. I will try to compile. It will show an error because there was actually a business logic there in the code. It was hidden between all the getters. And you actually can see it now. Get login uppercase. So we want to display login uppercase in the app. But it wasn't clear that it was in that code before. So we can add this one. Oops. Create method. Oh, it returns string. And as we would expect, it returns login, but uppercase it. Yay. And the business logic that we have is clearly visible. When you want to add new fields, you don't change everything in Parcelable, in Builder, everywhere, which during code review or things like that makes things very, very hard. And it compiled. Yay. Okay, what else? And there was preferences. Yeah, so I use JSON for storing complex objects in preferences, and the code looks like this. It's a very simple example that it stores list of longs, which in the app is like you want to remember which repositories were clicked. If I click here, go back, go in again, it's loaded from shared preferences. So basically, there is, well, for 2 preferences, it's not that much. It's like 30 lines. But let's look at it if we change it some. So I will put my microphone and we'll start. Okay, some explanation. So what we have here is like 2 preferences. One is fun name. I'm a fan of whoever, so I'm adding that. And the other thing is the list of repositories or IDs of repositories. And it's called repo IDs for review. Let's copy it from here. Small letter. And actually, that's all you need. You need to define what preferences are there. And again, it will compile. That's your class. It has getters, setters, which are not simple getters and setters, of course. But it's a bit better API for me. I really hate strings all over the Android code, like in extras, in bundles everywhere. That's really annoys me. Too many errors are there hidden. Especially when you are a lazy developer and you don't create constants for that, and you make a typo in the string. It compiled and it still works. Oops, not this one. Yay. Looks cool, isn't it? Yeah, it generates actually the same code you could see here. So if you have a complex object inside, you will get a constructor with 2 parameters, which you can inject using Dagger or whatever, or create it directly. And if it's only for fields, like simple objects like string ints, it will create 1 parameter constructor for you. So the last one I will show you is not really that impressive. Saving instance state. So we have like repositories downloaded from the internet via our API, which we can simply annotate with instance state, and the code, exactly the same code that we can see here, will be created for us. So the unsafe instance state is not required anymore. And this is because I added it back to the preferences. That's better. So it still works. And I plan to add new annotations with help from other developers who are also interested in that, like extras, like nice builders for fragments, which you usually create new instance factory method for that, and you insert all the boilerplate there, which is a bit nice, but not that great. And that's all from the not talking. I was talking all the time, which is cheap. But okay. So there's some probably time for a few questions. 5 minutes, okay. And few hours after the conference, during the party. And that will be all from me. Thanks.
Hello, you said it was based on Lombok,
Yeah.
which uses a hacky way to actually modify the classes during compilation, I think, or something like that.
Yes.
If the Javac compiler is fixed, or I don't know when, Lombok won't be usable anymore. Is not that a problem? Because if they try to modify the compiler, and that blocks Lombok, Lombok is not usable anymore, and all your annotation are down from one version to Java to the other.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Actually, right now, I think my version of library doesn't work on Java 1.6. I tested it only on 1.78. So there are incompatibilities there, but that's always possible to fix it in the code, like adding an if statement somewhere in the Lombok or Hrisey.
Congratulations for this. I leave Java because of a lot of boilerplate code for Ruby. For when you start an application, it's very good to do this. But do you plan to do command line tools to do this on an existing project, not to have to check each file for getters and setters and this kind of boilerplate code?
So you would like to have an automated tool that removes all the boilerplate and adds annotations?
Yeah.
I didn't really think of that. When I was working with Lombok for the first time, like halfway during my project, I started to only remove boilerplate from the classes I had to modify. So half of the classes are there like boilerplate-ish, and most of them are okay. So that's what I did. And I don't want you to just add this library and try to remove all the boilerplate right now, because there is no sense in that. So if you add something to your class, it's reasonable to think about removing the boilerplate, but just for removing it, it doesn't make sense to me, at least.
I think with a correct code coverage and test, this could be possible, maybe.
What do you mean exactly?
If you have a test to test your code with good code coverage, you can remove all the boilerplate code with just a few risks.
Yeah, sure, you could do that.
Okay, thank you.
If you want to contribute a command line tool like that, that would be amazing.
So you're talking about doing also annotations for fragments for avoiding boilerplate code. How does it will be different than Android annotations or transfuse?
Well, what I don't like about Android annotations is it adds new classes to your project. So you actually know they are there, and with this kind of technology, it's transparent to you. You basically work with the classes you created. So there are no underlines in manifest, and I didn't really like that. Android annotations changes your API a lot if you work with, especially nested fragments. I tried to do that with nested fragments, didn't work out well.
Okay. Last one.
So many questions. Wow.
And I don't remember, so when you use Lombok from within the IDE, like in Android Studio, when you use like, let's say, a getter generated by your Lombok transformation, you can, I mean, there's no red line or anything like that in the IDE?
Yeah, exactly. It's magic from IntelliJ plugin.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm also working on that. It's a bit easier to work with because the guy that created it did a really good job there. So it basically, you have the IntelliSense everything.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We stop now. If you have other questions, I think you can ask him outside.